Good evening, everybody. Thank you for connecting and joining us at this virtual platform. I'm Kavish Tolati. I hold almost a decade of experience in the intellectual property domain and currently plays as a senior patent attorney with one of the oldest and trusted IP law firms, which is Ellis Dower and Company. I thank the event organizers WIPF for arranging this virtual platform, a virtual event, and allowing us an opportunity to present in front of the learned audience. So the topic of my presentation today would be intellectual property conundrum in the world of e-commerce. So it would be divided in two parts. First of all, I would be speaking about the interrelation between these two fields, the existence of intellectual property rights, different kind of intellectual property rights in the diverse landscape of e-commerce. And then we would be in the second half touching upon some of the complexities in safeguarding the intellectual property rights in e-commerce. To start off with, as we all know what e-commerce is, e-commerce allows us to expand our business and market of reference beyond our normal market borders. It gives us a global perspective and global reach to reach out the customers internationally. But at the same time, it also exposes us to the threat of being copied and subject to wider competition, which anyways also exists even if we do not engage in e-commerce. So with this threat in mind, the intellectual property, as we know, comes very handy in safeguarding the different kind of IPs that we have generated on the e-commerce businesses or the platforms. So it is very popularly, as a matter of fact, known as that intellectual property in e-commerce is perhaps the most neglected, the highest value bearing component of e-commerce. And this is because of the couple of reasons that it's less comprehensible or we do not understand the complexities involved between the e-commerce, the vast, diverse e-commerce space in today's internet and knowledge-based economy, and the intellectual properties that it has to offer. There's a very famous quote from the book titled Weaving the Web from Tim Berners-Lee's book, which goes like, technology is an inseparable child of humanity, and that for true progress to occur, the two must walk hand in hand. I mean, there cannot be any isolation between the two things. Technology is the only essence of human progress, with neither one acting as servant to the other. To start off with, we need to understand what actually is the correlation between intellectual property rights and e-commerce. So intellectual property rights and e-commerce or electronic commerce as we know it are totally interdependent on each other. That is, both of them are important to each other. And e-commerce, more than any other business system across the service industry, involves maximum selling of products and services and goods that are usually based on intellectual property and different kind of patent licensing or product licensing. So it has all the more uh, variants of intellectual property than any other service sector as we know. Things ranging from music, pictures, photos, software designs, etc., are all traded through electronic commerce, and thereby IP becomes an intrinsic and inherent component of any value transaction taking place in the e-commerce space. Intellectual property rights are important because the things of value that are traded on the internet must be protected using technological security systems and IP laws. In the absence of safeguarding your IP laws that are generated on the e-commerce, the entire structure or the essence of e-commerce will be destroyed and lost, since it mostly intrinsically and very inherently relies on plenty of intellectual property rights that we would be discussing in the subsequent slides. So like I just mentioned, e-commerce business and interrelated businesses, broadly to say that, are based on product or patent licensing. So typically there goes n number of technologies to make single platform or a product, and not any individual can have hands-on experience in all those technologies or so you need to have amalgamation of technologies and amalgamation of people through licensing arrangements coming together and building up the e-commerce platform or a website as we know. Who owns the intellectual property in the e-commerce space? So a typical e-commerce business or a website would be a collage of components because there would be variety of people. Like I just mentioned, there are plenty of e-commerce intellectual property rights that are intrinsic to the e-commerce business. So there would be variety of people having so variety of people having the ownership in different rights. Somebody could have the patent rights for a navigation software. Somebody could be having copyright for graphics or artistic work or the website development and stuff. And somebody could be having industrial design protection. Somebody could be having trademark protection. So the ownership also of intellectual property is very diverse in nature. It's various entities coming together to define the ownership of a single e-commerce business or a website. What is the role of intellectual property in e-commerce? So, like we know, today is the internet and the knowledge-based economy. I mean, we are it's the face of the fourth revolution going on. So, for last 20, 30 years, we have seen the massive rise of the internet and different technological advancements in our day-to-day life. So, intrinsically, so I've been focusing on this word. It's the very inherent nature of e-commerce that they tend to generate a lot of intellectual property rights. So intellectual property rights safeguards the business interests and entities of a company or an individual against any unfair competition. And in the absence of any absence of safeguard of your IP laws and practices that you have generated in the course of building up your IP e-commerce business, everything ranging from the copyright protection or trademarks or patents will eventually be lost because it's open. Internet is an open source. Everybody has access to internet these days, so it's a global thing we are speaking about. So if you have not protected your IP rights that you have generated in the e-commerce business, so the entire structure of e-commerce and the entire essence of your e-commerce business will be lost since your things will be floated in the open space and open market and anybody can copy it. So this way it becomes all the more important to secure your IP in e-commerce. Additionally, IP itself, IP characteristically, is a part of the e-commerce because things like softwares and chips and networks and designs and routers, just to name these few technical things, they goes in building up the website and the software and your architectural design and your network design, which are IP in themselves. So the things that you are, so the ingredients that you are using to make your e-commerce business are IP in themselves. So it's two set of IP, First, the things that you're using are IP in itself. They used to be protected in themselves, and then the outcome, then the business that you are building in terms of e-commerce, vast amount of IP is generated there as well. So they are really intertwined with each other. E-commerce based businesses consider IP as the most valuable asset and often on patent portfolios and trademarks to enhance the value of their online businesses. So obviously, the more IP you have, the more IP, the more upper hand you would have in this tough competition space. What are the different elements of protection for e-commerce, or what are the different kinds of intellectual property rights protection available to the e-commerce entities or the e-commerce business? As you can see, I've listed some 8, 10 bullet points. So, and broadly, we only have 8 to 10 different kinds of IP. So, e-commerce literally has a has has scope for has scope for generation of plenty of IP, starting from patents to copyrights to database protection to trademarks to industrial designs to online business methods and any other marks. So you could have patents for protecting the e-commerce systems or the search engines. The software should be protected either through copyrights or patents. That's again a very gray area for different jurisdictions, but the software should be protected either under copyrights or patents. And typical design and artistic and literary and website related designs could be protected under copyrights, including the technological systems like encryption and watermarking. And sui generis databases could provide you protection for databases. Trademarks, as we all know, in the retail commerce as well, provides protection for logos and names and symbols used on your website for your business. And industrial design protection could be used for screen displays and UIs and web pages, etc. And any other mark that reflects the name and character of the business is registered as a trademark. And online business matters can be filed for patent protection. So starting right from patent and up to the industrial protection, it covers broadly all kinds of intellectual property. So that's the kind of interrelation, intertwined these two entities and these two fields are. Enforcing or defending your rights. So there are a couple of things, basically with respect to the website generation and website protection, that one should take care of while launching their website or building their website so as to protect their IP rights, which categorically relates to copyrights because they relate to website as I just mentioned. So you should publish or display your copyright notice on the first page of the website using this symbol C, which would make it very evident, very certain that the website or this page is copyright protected. Post only pictures with a watermark, like I discussed in the previous slide, watermark or encryption. And disable right click and hot linking and display copyright notice when an image is right click. Do not show all the procedure to create your product. So these are some of the prerequisites. These are some of the preeminent steps that you can take in order to safeguard your IP and avoid the infringement or misuse of your IP rights of the website or e-commerce. The two of the primary aspects of intellectual property uh, with respect to e-commerce. So, what kind of intellectual property things you need to take care of with respect to electronic commerce? So the two areas of primary concern are safeguarding your own intellectual property and making sure that you're not violating someone else's intellectual property. It's very important to take care of these 2 points. And what do we mean by these 2 points? Safeguarding your own intellectual property. I mean, you need to be sure that you are not disclosing your intellectual property without safeguarding it. A common mistake is disclosing intellectual property prior to filing for protection of that property. Like in many countries, making trade secrets, they could be anything. As we know, the definition for trade secrets is really very lengthy. It can amount to anything that has a commercial value. Making trade secret public automatically dissolves any protection. You won't have a protection for all of your trade secrets, which are very characteristic to your business, and hence you will lose the entire essence of the business. It is recommended to consult the legal advisor, pertinent legal advisor in your jurisdiction, so as to make sure that it helps you um, uh, find and assess different uh, IP rights of yours and secure them accordingly before making them public. Violating someone else's intellectual property. So today is an era of open source. You have lots of information, and knowingly or unknowingly, many a times what happens is we uh, even if inadvertently we copy some things that do not belong to us, and as a result we are infringing on somebody else's IPs. Basically, the risk is more in the e-commerce space, since it's all interrelated. It's a global network that we are speaking about. Unlike the retail commerce, everything is connected on the internet, so you need to be careful of each and every IP right. So it is important for you to ensure that all of the information that is published on your website is your own information, that you are the sole proprietor, you are the sole creator of that information. It could be belonging to any particular kind of intellectual property right, and you have the permission to use it from the authorized creator, or it is in the public domain, or it is covered under fair use. So these 4 elements, these 4 points, you need to be very careful of, critical of, while launching your e-commerce website or business, so as to make sure that you are not knowingly or unknowingly violating somebody else's intellectual property. Intellectual property is not limited to content. Whatever we have discussed till now, it was more in terms of the website business and e-commerce business, where you have a platform in terms of the website and the services are exchanged on the website. But all this intellectual property right, the interrelation between intellectual property and e-commerce is equally valid for goods and all other kind of services or brands that you're dealing with on your platform. So as a supplier, you need to make sure that whatever brands and whatever goods of those brands that you're dealing in are authentic. It is your sole responsibility. so as to make before launching those or before dealing with those goods on your e-commerce platform. Intellectual property audit. It becomes important for one to undertake this audit and list all your inventories such as designs and sketches and artworks and website designs and photos, music, scripts, alterations to your product and new processes developed for your services and the like. So you can enlist all the intellectual property rights that belongs to your business and uh, keep a note of all of them, just like any other audit, and start by listing any of the symbols, names, mottos, which broadly falls under the trademark category. Take inventory of your trade secrets, like we discussed in one of the previous slides. So these are some of the examples of trade secrets. It could be customer lists, it could be strategies, it could be designs, anything that has a commercial value attached to it, for technical improvement. Uh, yeah. It is further recommended to document all contexts that would have any sort of impact on the intellectual property, any kind of intellectual property listed above, including contracts with design companies, logos, and websites, non-disclosure agreements, and agreements signed with any employees one might have. So it is basically taking care of all the IP in the process that you might have generated, and having a regular audit, or at least having the intellectual property audit done once, because what it does is properly documented intellectual property could enhance the scalability of your e-commerce business. Like we all know, it's a startup era. I mean, you there could be possibilities that you are getting into mergers and acquisitions with anybody in the future, and so you need to be sure that all your intellectual property belonging to your e-commerce business is well documented, is well audited. That increases the chances of your the scalability of your business and gives you an upper hand in negotiations with the person you are dealing with. So up till now, we have discussed the interrelation between intellectual property and e-commerce, what all rights exist in e-commerce, and what's the kind of interplay between the two. Now, as I had said in the beginning, the second part of this presentation is going to be the complexity of intellectual property protection and related rights in e-commerce. Because as we know, e-commerce is really a global era, global thing. It's very unlike the retail commerce, and so are the legal rights and jurisprudence and the jurisdiction issues and the protection of IP issues in the e-commerce. It becomes all the more complex and convoluted in nature. So we would be touching upon some of these areas. To start off with, uh, we need to understand, we need to know about the internet treaties, uh, which were which were launched in as early as mid 90s. That was the time, that was the early 90s, and the late 80s was the birth of internet, and this was the time the internet and the e-commerce in particular was gaining traction, and it was booming globally. So the WIPO, World Intellectual Property Organization, had come up with these two treaties, which are popularly known as Internet Treaties. One of them is WIPO Copyright Treaty (WCT), and the other is WIPO Performances and Phonograms Treaty (WPPT). Both of them entered into force in March and May 2002, respectively. So the purpose of these internet treaties are broadly to respond to the challenges posed by the digital technologies, and in particular the dissemination of protected material over the global networks that make up the internet. So like I just mentioned, this was various WIPO uh, seminars and conferences, and everything was conducted so as to come up with these things way back in mid 90s and early 2000s. So all these treaties are, although 20-30 years back, are old, and they are they are advancing in nature. Obviously, a lot has changed in the last 10-20 years, but they forms the backbone of the protection of intellectual property in the e-commerce space is concerned. So the contents of internet treaties can be divided broadly, categorized into three parts, namely incorporation of certain provisions of the TRIPS agreement not previously explicitly included in WIPO treaties. Example, protection of computer programs and original databases are literary works under copyright law. Second, Updates not specific to digital technologies, example, the generalized right of communication to the public, and third, provisions that specifically address the impact of digital technologies. So all this was put forward, uh, keeping in mind the advent of digital technologies and the e-commerce businesses. So these treaties helps take care of these 3 points. These 3 points are broadly the essence of these treaties. Legal adjustments in response to digital technologies. So, like I mentioned, this was the transition phase. The internet was booming, the e-commerce was booming, and there was a transition taking place from retail commerce to electronic commerce. So there has to be a lot of legal adjustments uh, to be done so as to fine tune them, so as to the digital technologies, to the arena of digital technologies, such that they are capable of securing the rights of the digital holders. So to understand this, we need to understand that technology adjourns any supplements to the technology to the rights of the digital holders are important. These are intended to ensure that right holders can effectively use technology to protect their rights and license their works online. The first such technological adjourn that acts as a supplement to the intellectual property protection is the inter-circumvention provision, which takes into account the problem of hacking. That is, it requires the member countries of the WIPO to provide adequate legal protection and effective remedies against the circumvention of technological measures, such as encryption used by right holders to protect their right. So there has to be sufficient laws in place by either the international laws by WIPO or the member countries have to design such territorial rights that takes care of the rights of the technological rights of the of the e-commerce owners, mm, wherein they are using technology such as encryption that nobody can overcome it, can overcome it, the technological measures that have been adopted by the e-commerce players in safeguarding their interests. The second type of technological adjustment safeguards the reliability and integrity of the online marketplace by requiring countries to prohibit the deliberate alteration or deletion of electronic rights management information. That is information which accompanies any protected material and which identifies the work, its creators, performer, or owner, and the terms and conditions for its use. So these are some of the standards, and every member country has to make sure that nobody can prohibit or alter these standards. Jurisdiction and applicable law. So there has to be some tweaks done to fine tune to the requirements, statutory requirements, and the inherent nature of e-commerce. Uh, so, like we know that internet is a global scenario. It's multi-jurisdictional. Unlike the retail commerce, uh, it becomes all the more complex and all the more important to deal with this jurisdiction and the applicability of different laws and treaties and provisions in the space of e-commerce. Digitized content may also travel through and be used in various countries and jurisdictions, each with an own legal system. And so, in view of this intrinsic nature of the internet and the e-commerce business, the issues of which court or forum decides a dispute poses significant challenges. And this, anyways, goes beyond the domain of intellectual property and involves other complicated areas as well. Because even without the impact of global digital networks, international exploitation of intellectual property has always raised complex questions of international private law. Because, as we know, intellectual property rights by nature are territorial and jurisdictional rights. So, even beyond this e-commerce space, where there hasn't been this uh, global digital networks involved, then also the applicability um, or the question about the applicability of law and jurisdiction that will come into force in terms of the dispute or the enforcement of the rights of the particular intellectual property holder are anyways complex in nature. So, with the inherent nature of internet being global in nature and the e-commerce businesses in global and diverse in nature, this applicability of law and different treaties becomes all the more complex in the e-commerce space. So, these are some of the questions that we are still struggling with. I mean, at, like it's mentioned that at the national level, questions of jurisdictions, applicable law, and recognition and enforcement of foreign judgments have been resolved by reference to private international law. Now, for that matter, every member country of WIPO would have a different rules with respect to private international law. They are different understanding, you know. So while in certain regions of the world, some of these rules have been harmonized by treaty, the overall picture remains divergent. Trademarks. Now, coming on to the specific kind of IPs in the e-commerce, uh, in terms of understanding as to how these intellectual property rights, be it trademarks or patents, are complex, or what challenges, additional challenges they pose in the e-commerce space than the retail commerce. So the typical challenges that a trademark owner faces in the online environment include unauthorized deep linking, meta tagging, banner advertising, framing, search engine marketing abuse, search engine optimization, manipulation, pop-up advertisement, mouse trapping, etc. So these are very serious challenges that the internet environment, that the online environment poses in front of the trademark owner. And the offenses might result in diversion of traffic to competitive business and exploitation of the rights holders' brand for generation of advertising revenues and counterfeit and gray market sales. And many of these issues are elevated by the territorial nature of trademark and again the global nature of internet in terms of different treaties that are in place. So what's been seen recently that many companies around the globe are coming up with innovative solutions to so as to camouflage or so as to overcome or to avoid this kind of trademark abuse, the ones the clients involved in things that are listed above, you know. So one such approach, common approach that is also elaborated in the subsequent slides is is, uh, is use of common platform for multiple trademarks. So the very so one example that I could cite here for you is there's a website called desk.com which offers access to two different websites which are Distributed Information Systems Corporation of Farmington, Connecticut, as well as Dynamic Information Systems Corporation of Boulder, Colorado. So this approach allows the companies to reconcile the limitation of registering only one domain name in cyberspace with the ability to for separate businesses to own the same trademark in two separate geographic locations in physical world. So you could be situated two different e-commerce players could be separate, could be located entirely poles apart, entirely different places on the earth, could be dealing into entirely different businesses, but they somehow share this. Uh, the name is similar, so they have to have the same domain name um, for the website, uh, and so they can get into this kind of agreement, you know, that there could be one common website that could be home to. So if you log into that website, so you could be diverted to do different websites, you know, which are using the same trademark or the domain name. So this way they are avoiding the securing multiple different rights and as a result getting into confrontation with each other. So there's a statement from desk.com, it's in the public domain. You could see that what's the idea behind this approach. In the spirit of internet cooperation, these two companies known as DISC are sharing this intermediate homepage. These choose the company of interest. So it acts as a mediator, an intermediary. From that platform, you can get to the website of your choice. So, and then there are additional technical measures such as internet keywords and blocking access by internet users located in a particular country, or by refusing to deliver goods or services to customers located in a particular territory may help alleviate trademark misuse on the internet. What's the global effect of injunctions and alternate remedy? So, as we had been speaking, that it's internet is and e-commerce businesses are globally acceptable. I mean, many e-commerce, almost all e-commerce websites are globally present. You know, so there could be internet-wide injunctions. There could be a possibility of internet-wide injunctions. Again, if these if we are so sure that the infringer is is infringing the rights of the trademark owner in bad faith. So what it categorically says, especially in cases where the use of a sign on the internet is intentionally and in bad faith target the trademark right, it may be appropriate to prohibit every form of use of the conflicting sign on the internet. in order to remove its effect on the internet or territories in which the trademark enjoys protection and to prevent such use from violating the legitimate interest of the trademark holder. So, if it is established that the infringer has infringed the trademark in bad faith, there could be pan internet ban on the infringer. Electronic business and patents. It is because of the inherent and innate technological nature, be it in terms of the softwares and hardwares of the e-commerce business, that there's a there's a prominence of securing patents as an intellectual property in this domain. So the intellectuals in this area, in the policy making and in the policy making and law and pertaining to patents have distinct opinion with respect to this thing, though. I mean, it is of belief that patenting leads to it is a common general belief that patenting leads to knowledge sharing and offers distinctive advantage to businesses. But the same practice is suspected to adversely affect the competition because it is contended that companies may exploit this system to obtain patents for business methods that are not new and already exist in the non-cyber space. Nevertheless, we have seen in our day-to-day lives that there are plenty of patents granted in the fields related to financial services and electronic sales and advertising methods and business methods and telephone exchanging and billing methods, etc. So these are some of the complex challenges with respect to the different kinds of IP in the e-commerce, and we are still dealing with them. There are jurisprudences, there are precedences, and there are laws that are being generated to take care of it. But the idea of this thing is to show that how e-commerce is different from the typical retail commerce or the challenges it poses to the protection of intellectual property rights and securing the intellectual property rights in the e-commerce space or the validity of the intellectual property rights in the e-commerce space, I would say. Now, lastly, I would just like to take you through the case study, which briefly highlights the rise of the e-commerce giant that we know as Alibaba today. So it was in the mid 90s that there was a rise of a couple of e-commerce entities in China, and they have been controlling the e-commerce space since since early 21st century. These are the kind of percentages of the market shares that Alibaba has captured over the years in the e-commerce space globally and in China. So what do they do differently, so as to safeguard or so as to safeguard their intellectual property rights in e-commerce and so as to minimize the complexity that we have discussed so far in the e-commerce space. So the Alibaba model of intellectual property protection, which I say is an innovative model, so is basically seeks to protect IP rights by integrating technology, business models, and the law. So these are the three applications that they use in their innovative model, enabling technology to improve online governance. So they use things like fake product identification modeling and image recognition techniques, technologies such as semantic recognition algorithms, product information databases, real-time interception systems, and data calibration platforms. So all these things have given them profound results with an accuracy of 97.6% in finding the fake and identified images, strengthening governance through innovative business practices. So these are some of the models and some of the technologies that they have launched over the recent years, so as to strengthen their business models you know, to secure their IP, to secure their IPs, and as a result, boost their e-commerce businesses. So there's a private sector-led Electronic World Trade Platform, which is a multi-stakeholder initiative which seeks to incubate e-trade rules and foster a more effective and efficient policy and business environment for cross-border electronic trade development. Alibaba is constantly exploring ways to tackle the illegal online trade in counterfeit goods. And in 2016, they have launched the IP Joint Forces, which combines the strengths of e-commerce operators and right holders. In August 2016, there was again first of its kind initiative wherein Alibaba Express IPP was launched, which offers global IP rights holders a range of benefits free of charge. Beyond managing a world-leading online IP protection system for all brand owners, the protection provides right holders with an upgraded IP enforcement service. Lastly, the governance, the model that I have described in the previous slides, and all the governance is being taken care of by well-defined laws and the rules. So under development since 2010, the rules cover all types of IP infringement and govern the full range of activities undertaken by different platforms and different parties of Alibaba. Since 2016, Alibaba has also actively initiated civil actions against vendors of counterfeit products on its platform. So this is one classic example where in 2017, the Alibaba Group won a landmark case when a Shanghai court ordered a vendor of pet foods to pay approximately 17,700 USD in damages. So this is one of the classic examples in the e-commerce space that we are aware of, and all this has been achieved by the innovative model where they are integrating technology, business, and law so as to boost and foster their e-commerce and the intellectual property. So there's again innovative dispute resolution mechanism in place that takes the feedback from public and uses them and enforces them in their system so as to very effectively uh, ascertain and take note of the uh, of the of, of of the fictitious and uh, malified sellers and promoters on the e-commerce platforms. And since 2016, in 2016, Alibaba introduced five new strategies for retail, manufacturing, finance, technology, and energy. And their focus was on their theme was made in internet, wherein the use of internet and the use of big data to identify consumer preferences will become an important driver for incubating and delivering improved IP rights. So it has the amalgamation of this is one classic example from where we can learn as to how to uh, you know make use of the technological systems and advance our business processes and business systems to foster our IP and intellectual property. So, in conclusion, all I can say is only by respecting IP and fostering the development of IP rights that are effective in fostering the online businesses can we achieve high performing competitive markets. So, issue of IP protection, as it is apparent, as evident from our discussion in e-commerce space, is complex in nature, especially when tackling the online sale of counterfeit products because of the you know diverse nature of it. There are lakhs and crores of products and many entities and different laws and everything, so it becomes almost impossible to take care of each and every issue. It becomes more and better cooperation and joint governance among relevant stakeholders and the sharing of data and technologies among government authorities, IP rights holders, and e-commerce platforms. Such an approach is essential if we are to make a real difference, achieve mutual benefit, and ensure that e-commerce continues to thrive. I would be pleased to take any questions and answer them accordingly during the live streaming of this session. Thank you for your time and patience.